Hey everyone, Lauren from A Girl in Her Wool here. Fibonacci is not joining us at the moment, but we'll see if he comes over. I just put some food down for him and pie. Hopefully they won't meow. So he might come join us, but we'll carry on without him. So today I am doing a work in progress video. So I'm going to show you all my current projects and show you the progress that I've been doing for the last week. If you are interested in some other types of videos, definitely subscribe to my channel. I instead of doing one long weekly or bi-weekly video, I break up the topics into different videos so you can really pick and choose what you want. See if I have them organized into playlists yet. That is definitely on my to-do list, and maybe me saying this now will be the motivation to actually organize them in that way. So there'll be a playlist for my day in the life vlogs, which come out on Tuesdays, my work in progress videos like this one on Wednesdays. I'll have my finished object posts that come out on Fridays, my miscellaneous Saturday topics, and my Sunday shop update videos. So you can subscribe again, like I said. You can also keep an eye on my blog at agirlandherwool.com because I post a lot of updates there as well. So without further ado, here are some of my projects. Okay, so the first one that I have here are my 2-color socks. It is a pattern by Locatelli. You would have seen these last week. This is sock number 1. These are not blocked or anything. So this is sock 1. Again, it's the 2-color socks, and the yarn that I'm using is my hand-dyed yarn, A Girl in Her Wool, in a still to be announced base. It's going to be a new base. It's a fingering weight base, and the colors are Love at First Sight and Pebbles in the River. And I showed this sock last week, and hey, look at this. I have the other sock all done. So you can tell, and I won't talk about this too much because I will have this as a finished object post in an upcoming Friday post, but I have fraternal socks. So I reversed the colors that I'm using in the order, and it's funny because, so first of all, that's not something I normally would do. Even self-striping yarn, I really like my socks to match perfectly. This is not a look I would typically do. I get that they're socks and it doesn't really matter, but because these are actually going to be shop samples, it actually is nice to get to show off the colors in both ways. So again, now on this one, the main body is Love at First Sight, and the contrast is Pebbles in the River. My cats are totally battling right now, so you can probably hear them. Nacho. Shh. Nacho, come sit here. Okay, so if you hear cats battling, that is why. So again, I won't go into too much detail on these. Definitely make sure you look out for an upcoming Friday post. I plan on, it won't be this Friday, so I'm not sure exactly which Friday, but definitely keep an eye out for these. But I did have a lovely lazy afternoon over the weekend, and I knocked out most of this sock then. I think I was like just past the heel, so I did all this pretty much in an afternoon. And if you watch, you know that I'm trying to get through Game of Thrones. And when I say trying to get through, I actually hold back how much I'm allowed to watch it because I don't want it to be over. So I watched one of those episodes and then totally binge watched Zoey's Extraordinary Playlist. If you haven't checked that out, it's currently in its first season, so you would need it on demand. They've been piling up on my DVR, but I had missed the first episode and I know it was on demand. So if you like musical shows, I definitely recommend checking that out. Lauren Graham from Gilmore Girls is in it, in a totally different kind of role than what she was in Gilmore Girls. And the guy from Pitch Perfect is in it. And I think the main character actress is a newcomer, but at least I didn't know her. Oh, also one of the guys from Glee is in it. It's a really cute show. If you like musicals, it's really fun. I think the musical segments are a lot shorter than Glee, if you watch that. I don't think they usually do like a whole song, but it's a cute storyline. Basically, she can hear other people's thoughts through song, and it's usually like some problem that they have, and she tries to help them with it, but it's not a drama. It's definitely more comedy, and so anyway, this isn't a TV show review podcast, but that is what I did, and I got through the end of these socks. So I'm excited to have these done, and I will be blocking them and then talking about them in an upcoming post. So for my second project, I showed this last week as a new cast on, so you might have seen it before. I've made a little bit of progress on it, and I'll show it first and then kind of get into some of those details. So this is the Drachenfels shawl by Melanie Berg. I'm using 3 colors. You can see the first 2 in here already. So this deep navy is Darkest Hour. Oh, this is Suburban Stitcher yarn. All 3 colors are in the single sock base, which is a single ply superwash merino yarn. Stop. And this is the Darkest Hour colorway. The coral in here is Clementine. And then the third colorway will be Sweet Adeline, which is like a cream base, but it has the speckles from Clementine in it. So when I was originally picking out the colors, like I knew these 2 went really well together. And then I picked Darkest Hour to be a deep contrast, which I do love. Like seeing these 2 knit up next to each other are really nice. So yeah, so I am at the very beginning of the shawl. As you can tell, I did introduce color number 2, and now I'm back to doing a little bit of color number 3. I think it repeats this a bit in that you do a block of your first color, and then kind of this little slip stitch section, and you repeat that a few times before I think the third color gets introduced. But again, we'll see. So this is it's gonna be an asymmetrical triangular shawl. So you start at one point, like you can see here, increase out to the main point, and then it'll decrease back down to the other one. I do like this style of shawl because your rows are never too long. Just when they get to the longest point, you get to start decreasing it back down. So I always feel like these are a little less daunting than some standard shawls where you either start at the bottom point and you're increasing all the way up, or you cast on a million rows and then it takes forever to feel like you're making any progress. So I talked about this last week, but I pretty much have been trying to limit my whips and knit pretty monogamously, and this has been working really well. If you've noticed, I've had a lot of finished objects recently. Thank you to whoever just ordered some yarn from my shop. You guys are seeing this live. Every time I get an order, I do like a little dance. So yay, thank you. And where was I? See, it like just brightens me up. Yeah, know when you order from my shop, there is someone on the other side who is doing a happy dance when they get the email, the notification. Okay. So yes, I typically have been knitting pretty monogamously, and that has been really helpful. This really started because I have been trying to knit up samples, and so because of that, I really want to get through that sample and then have it available. So knitting monogamously has been helping me be more productive. If you think about it, you're still knitting the same number of stitches, but I think sometimes when you're getting close to the end of a project, you kind of get through it. So my main project that I've been working on I usually have a main project, and what happens with my main project is that's what I work on when we're watching TV. That's what I pick up if we are going in the car somewhere, or while I'm dyeing. It's really the project that I'm just always working on, and that's the one that I'm really trying to get done, or yeah, it's just like the main project that I'm working on. So that has been those Joji socks. So we'll come back to that now that those are done. Then I usually try to have a project for while I'm reading. And that is because I was always an avid reader. And that comes from my mom is a really, she reads a lot. My dad goes through phases of it, but I just always came from a reading family. Especially my mom and I would just kind of lay around reading, not together. We would always read separate books, but just always had time to read. It's something we talk about a lot, is what we're reading, what books are good. And I found that I'm not reading as much, and part of that has become, knitting has become such a big part of my life. And instead of taking a book with me places, I take my knitting with me. And I even find knitting is easier. Like if you're waiting at a doctor's office, it's easier to knit than it is to read, because when I would be waiting, I would find that I wasn't really paying attention because I was half listening for my name to be called, or if sometimes they call you back to the counter to check back in or whatever. I just found that I'm not reading as much. And part of that too is my husband doesn't read at all. I've tried. I have gone to the library and come home with books for him. I've just tried. It's not his thing, and that is fine. But I think it just means is because a lot of times after dinner, then we just sit down to watch a movie or TV, and then that's really time that I should be reading. Anyway, so I'm trying to encourage myself to read more. So I am trying to do 30 minutes in the morning now that, and we'll see how this works when I have to start commuting again, but now that I'm working from home every day, trying to read for 30 minutes in the morning, trying to read at other times if there's some quiet time. And so what that means is, let's come back to this shawl, is this has become my reading knitting. And I think that helps because, I want to keep knitting, but I also want to encourage myself to read. So for 30 minutes in the morning, I have been working on this, which is just garter stitch, and reading. And I can do that. The slip stitch row, even the slip stitch row, it's just like a slip one, knit one. So you get into the routine of that, and that works too. So that has been going really well. And I think part of it too is I was knitting and reading before, but I also usually would do vanilla socks, and that caused me, I'm just not into knitting vanilla socks right now, and so I haven't really been having straight stockinette or garter stitch projects, and that's something for me to think about as I'm planning projects, is to make sure that I have something that I'm willing to do while I'm reading. And maybe someday the reading will just come back and I'll get into it. I think a lot of it also started when I got caught up with the Outlander series. I went through a really hard struggle of finding more to read. I will say I have found books that I've gotten addicted to, and knitting has been set aside, but I have been turning to knitting more, and I want to turn to reading again too. I will also say I do audiobooks, so I do that too, especially on my commute. I do knit and listen to books. Obviously I'm not commuting right now, and It's just for the same reason that I'm not reading at home. It's hard to find the time for the audiobooks too. Okay, so enough about that because I just blabbed on for like 5 minutes about that. But I'm excited, I'm into my book, I'm into the shawl. I love the color play here. Like these two colors, navy and pink, is just always been my favorite combination, and I just can't stop. So that is my second project, 15 minutes in, 16 minutes in. So my third project is something that I keep talking about, there will be a video about, and there will be. So this upcoming Saturday, my miscellaneous video topic is going to be all about my stash and my charity projects for this year and how those two are playing together. I set a big goal for myself for this year to knit with all skeins in my stash. I do not need to finish them all. I just need to wind up and knit something out of each of the skeins in my stash, and that way they will all turn into leftovers. And then that way, when I want to knit a project, I can just buy the yarn for that project. I really I have some skeins in here that I've had for a long time, and I really just want to knit with them. And it's not putting myself on a yarn diet. I'm a yarn dyer. I don't believe in yarn diets. In fact, as a yarn dyer, I have bought more yarn than ever. And I've been knitting a lot with my own yarn. So it's not about not bringing yarn in. It's just about getting to plan. Like, I'm such a planner, and getting to plan the yarn for projects is fun. And a lot of these, when I go through my stash, a lot of these, probably none of them were bought on a whim. So yeah. Anyway, so that video will be coming Saturday, but I'll just show you really quick. Last night, after I finished the sock and I wasn't quite ready for bed yet, I cast on and knit a little preemie hat. So this preemie hat pattern is from Knitting Daddy, and it's called and I have the title up here so you can see it, but it's like the Scrappy Sock Preemie Hat pattern, something like that. And so it's with sock weight yarn. This is leftover yarn that I used for a pair of socks for my husband, and I also knit a hat. I knit another hat with leftovers. I also knit some of it into my blanket, and again, this is all going to come through, make more sense in that video, but I still had a little bit left, so I knit up this preemie hat. This was the medium size hat, which is incredible to me that this is a medium size hat and that this would ever fit a human, but that's what preemies are. And I didn't even check gauge. For all I know, I don't have kids. For all I know, this probably would fit a baby. I don't even know if this is a true preemie size. I used the correct needle size. It called for a size 3. I did not go down a needle size. So it'll get donated to a hospital and it'll fit whatever head it fits. So I finished that in the night. The ends are woven in. I just have to wash it. And then I'll put it into a bag so that, it stays clean. And yeah, so this won't get a finished object post. This is it. And I actually have, and I didn't weigh that hat. I didn't weigh the hat or how much I had I have how much I started written somewhere, but I do have a little bit more of the sock. This can't be more than a few grams, so I'm not sure if I would get the small size out of this. At this point, I might just put this back into my crochet scrap blanket. So yeah, that's my knitting for the week. I did not work on my escarpment cowl again. I did not attend Sit and Stitch last week, but hoping to again soon. And yeah, so the last thing I'm going to talk about real quick, because I know this is getting very long, is I did spin just before this video. So So this is what I'm currently working on. If you aren't sure what this is, I encourage you to check out my video about spinning. I posted that as my Saturday miscellaneous topic last week, and I talk all about how I got into spinning and this project. And what's exciting is this brown you can see here. Oh, I'll use this as my pointer. This brown is what I just spun up today, and it's exciting because I finally have a new color on there. So the color that I'm spinning is this one. It's a dark brown. And again, check out that video. I'm doing a fractal spin, and I divided each one of the colors into their own little braid. So this is I'm on the first half of the braid. And then within the first half, I just made 2 nests per color just because I'm a new spinner. It's a little bit more manageable to have less fiber in your hand at a time. So I'm halfway through that brown you can see on there. So once I spin this, I'll get to move on to another color. I think this one was smaller. And there's another brown next, so for all I know, it's like the same color that's on there. So I did get spinning done this week. And that is it. That's everything I've been working on. I do plan to cast on something new, my new main project, to replace those 2 color socks. I've talked a lot recently about knitting a sock arm sweater, so I'm not sure that that's going to be what's next. I don't know if I've talked about it on here, but I've also talked about doing a shift along hat, so that might actually be next. I'm still contemplating what to do as my main color for that one. So it's funny, I don't know if my next project will be even just another pair of socks. It might be a pattern sock. I'm not sure. Keep an eye out here. Definitely keep an eye out on my day in the life vlogs, because I talk a lot of planning in those videos, and then also on Instagram I am at agirlandherwool. So that is it for today. I hope you liked hearing all my rambling about all of my knitting projects and my reading, and can't even remember what else I was rambling on about. If you like this video, again, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any of my videos. If you just like hearing about these knitting projects, make sure you check out the playlist. Every Wednesday I post a works in progress video. If I miss a Wednesday, it's because I didn't have too much content, so don't be too disappointed. So I'm gonna get going. I hope you enjoy the rest of your week. Make sure you check out my Friday post. It's gonna be about a sweater that I made. And check out my Saturday for the long-awaited stash and charity knitting video. All right, guys, have a great week. Bye.